Let's go on to the next slide now about key applications and scenarios. And you'll see on the next slide, there are several of them that I've listed there. In terms of conflict management, I would also recommend that the TKI be used in the anticipation of conflict, not necessarily when a conflict situation has already broken out. But it can be used with individuals anticipating that conflict may be coming and that there are proactive and constructive ways to deal with it. You can see that you could use the TKI and the results in team building scenarios too, to inform all on the team of the playing field, and perhaps to even set the norms of behavior and conduct for the team around conflict situations. And also really to try to teach the team members that conflict in and of itself is neither good nor bad. It's how it's managed that's helpful or unhelpful. You could use the same learnings in leadership development and executive development too, as well as individual development. And I've put emotional intelligence as the final slide there because for me, the TKI represents a good example of applied emotional intelligence. If you know the emotional intelligence literature, it talks about, first of all, in order to be emotionally intelligent, we need to be self-aware, and we need to also understand what emotions we're feeling, and then to manage our own emotions. The third aspect of emotional intelligence is being aware of what other people might be feeling and thinking, and also to manage the interpersonal relationship. And you can see how the TKI and its results can be used really well for that. Let's go on to some key applications. On the next slide, you'll see I've got 3 of them listed. The first one is a situational approach. I've got that bolded out. And I'll show you on the next slide. The idea is to use the TKI and its results to teach your clients that they should respond to conflict situations versus reacting to conflict situations. In other words, it teaches your clients to be proactive versus passive around conflict situations. Also, it helps your clients see that they need to choose the most appropriate style of dealing with a conflict situation versus the old, same old, or perhaps even worse, taking an emotional response. But that it is possible to choose your own style of dealing with conflict. And that the TKI can also help people use their knowledge of the model to depersonalize situations and to stay goal-focused and be impartial. So this is a key aha that people get from looking at their TKI results. Here's a second one on the next slide. You can see I have it labeled Learn to Adapt and Build New Skills. And you'll see on the next slide, I've listed out what I meant by that. That is, you can see from your results, if you remember back to Pat's sample, that accommodating was a very frequently used mode of dealing with conflict, probably in situations in which accommodating was not appropriate. So the TKI can help you teach your clients how to expand from a one-approach-fits-all, that is, to start to add to their repertoire of conflict resolution techniques and skills. Now, the authors would say you cannot be a master or expert in all 5 styles. But if you could identify what your key style and maybe your backup style might be, and which styles you very rarely use, and start to learn more about them, it's got to lead to more effective handling of conflict situations. And the next application, you'll see it build as team conflict and team conflict handling styles. And let me show you what I meant by that. On the next slide, you'll see that it is possible in a team-based scenario for everyone to take the TKI and to pool their results and try to identify what might be the team's general method of dealing with conflict. In other words, you could help the team members discover what is the dominant style in the team and what might be a backup style if that dominant style has stopped working. And when all styles are aggregated and put together, could we make some proposals about how the team generally deals with conflict? What is its conflict handling style? And what are the benefits and blind spots of this? And also, what's the relationship between your personal TKI style and the team style? And is it complementary, or are there some significant differences that either makes the team uncomfortable or you uncomfortable? So in other words, you can see that a key application of the TKI is understanding how your style complements the team style, and what parts of the team style are most difficult for you to work with. Here's an example on the next slide of, this is from the Introduction to Conflict in Teams. It was written by Ken and Gail Thomas. And you will see some different interpretive nuances now for each one of the 5 modes as it applies to team life. You can see that the competitor team, the agenda is pushing a topic, whereas the accommodator team, the agenda is going along with teammates' topics. So here's how a person's individual results can start to play out in team life. Also, shown in the Introduction to Conflict in Teams booklet, but it's not shown on this particular slide, is some tips for the reader on what does it look like when a person's particular style is overused. And also, what are the differences between the intentions of a person using a style and how it might be perceived by others on the team. So some very useful information in that booklet, Introduction to Conflict in Teams, and I'll show you the cover in just a few minutes. Here's another page on the next slide. And this one just keys in on effects of the team's preferred mode. What does decision-making look like in each of the 5 modes? And you can see, starting with the competitor team, decision-making is imposed, perhaps by the leader. Or maybe it's achieved at through argument and debate. But that's very different from the accommodator team. I know I'm picking on these 2, but they're good examples to illustrate the differences. Decision-making on an accommodator team is much more supportive and protecting of teammates' needs. And relationships take the priority over task issues or personal concerns. Now there's, in the actual booklet on using the TKI in conflict situations and teams, there's more information like this presented on behaviors that you will see for in each of the 5 different teams. What might the atmosphere be like in each of the 5 teams? What about interpersonal relations? What would they look like? And also some information for the team leader. What is their goal and role on each type of team? So lots of information in that resource.